Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. The title of my speech today is A Fork in the Road. As we journey along the road of our lives, sooner or later, we all come to a fork in the road. This is the moment when we face a decision to choose between two or more paths that could change the course of our lives forever. The path we choose could lead us to success or failure, happiness or despair, a paradise or a dead end. The choice is never easy. There are no signs on the road telling us exactly what's on the end of each path, the ultimate destiny. I have encountered many forks on my road. I can identify 3 factors that have helped me change my path. Consideration of the pros and cons of taking each path, advice, both good and bad, from my mentors, and luck. The first fork in my road occurred when I was a junior in high school. I had a natural aptitude for math and science. I was encouraged to choose between the fields of engineering and medicine. I liked both fields, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a doctor. When I thought about the pros and cons of each field, it occurred to me that having an engineering degree would give me more options. If I went into medicine and didn't like it, it might be difficult to switch to another profession. Alternatively, if I went into engineering and didn't like it, it would be easier for me to switch to other professions such as medicine, computer science, engineering, or law. I decided to pursue an engineering degree. In retrospect, that was pretty good reasoning for a 17-year-old kid. I applied to engineering schools and I was accepted to a school in upstate New York with a partial scholarship. I was also put on the waiting list for a full scholarship to Columbia University, which had one of the best engineering schools in the country. About a week before I was scheduled to report to the upstate school, I got a call from Columbia telling me that one of the full scholarship students dropped out at the last minute and that I was next on the list. Good luck intervened to change my path, and I was off to Columbia for the next 4 years. The next fork in my road occurred when I was a sophomore in college. I wasn't excited about my engineering program, even though I was getting good grades in it. I also wasn't excited about the medical field after doing some volunteer work at a local hospital. There were all these sick people there. No one told me it was going to be like that. Yes, I was very naive at the time. It was at that time that I met a doctor who would become an important mentor in my life. I'll call him Dr. X. Dr. X was a psychiatrist, a very successful psychiatrist, or so he seemed. I was immediately impressed by his lavish, opulent lifestyle. He wore the finest clothes. He ate at all the fancy restaurants. He always carried around plenty of cash, which he spent like water. He knew all the rich and famous people in New York, and they idolized him. He was a rock star. He had not one, but 2 Mercedes-Benz cars. He lived in a mansion with his beautiful wife and his 2 adorable children. He had it all, the American dream. He told me I should forget about this engineering crap and go to medical school so I could be like him. I would never have to worry about money, and I could have everything I wanted in life, like he did. The promise of fortune and fame was irresistible. Dr. Land, here I come. I went on to medical school and residency training with Dr. X encouraging and coaching me all the way. We usually spoke at least once a week. Then something changed. A few months went by and I didn't hear from him at all. I called his wife, who gave me some terrible news. She told me that he had terminal cancer and that he only had a few months to live. I went to see him, and that's when I learned the truth about Dr. X. He didn't have cancer. He had terminal AIDS. He wasn't the great family man with the perfect family. He had lived a secret promiscuous life and had multiple extramarital affairs. The fancy clothes, the cars, the house, they were all bought on credit. He had amassed a mountain of debt that his wife was now burdened with. When I found out who he really was, my dreams of becoming a rock star doctor were shattered. What I thought was the road to paradise turned out to be a dead end. I was devastated. I had reached the lowest point in my life. I almost quit. It was at that time that I met the next important mentor in my life. I'll call him Dr. Y. Dr. Y was the complete opposite of Dr. X. He was an altruistic man who cared much more about others than himself. He led a simple life, no fancy clothes or cars. He spent most of his extra time working in his garden. He had an excellent bedside manner with his kind, compassionate, empathetic personality. He loved taking care of his patients, and his patients adored him. His example made me realize that I had wanted to be a doctor for all the wrong reasons. He showed me how a doctor's most important roles were to diagnose the diseases that afflict our patients, change the natural history of those diseases, and to give comfort, to ease the pain and suffering for our patients who are in their final days. In summary, I believe that we can all successfully navigate through the forks in our road by considering the three factors I've talked about today. When faced with multiple options, carefully consider the pros and cons of each option before proceeding ahead. Listen with a critical ear to the words of your advisors. Don't be swayed by false promises of fortune and fame. And finally, prepare yourself with the best skills and credentials so you'll be ready when the opportunity of a lifetime comes your way. The famous manager for the New York Yankees baseball club, Yogi Berra, once said, "When you come to a fork in the road, take it." Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, fellow Toastmasters.